Okay, hello everyone. Today is, I was going to say January. I'm looking right straight at the 4. April the 16th, Sunday, and 2023. And we are continuing our study of A Science of Mind. I'm really not sure where we are in it, so you all have to, kind of catch me up with this. So, Sakina, would you like to go ahead and take it away?
Sure. Let us become still for a few moments. Beloved source of all that is, was, and will forever be. We thank you for your presence within us, and we ask that you continue to open our hearts and our minds as we explore the different avenues that you have given us to learn more and more and more of the truth that is. Help us to be inspired and open our discussion and sharing so that all of us may continue to progress as the human beings that we are at this moment in time. And we do all of this because you let it be so, and so it is.
Okay, and so it is.
Okay, we left off last time on the section, which is where we're going to start, entitled Realization of Individuality. No great mystic ever lived who denied the
I'm
reality.
sorry, Sakina, what section?
Okay, the section is entitled Realization of Individuality.
Where is it? That's the,
It's okay.
because I just got the book.
Oh, all right. It's in lesson 4.
Oh, lesson 4. Okay.
Yeah, and it's after I'm sorry, I take that back. My bad. It's lesson 5.
Lesson 5. Okay.
Right. And it's in the introduction. We talked last time about true mysticism, what mystics have taught, ultimate salvation, freedom, unity of all. And this is the section right after that, where we're going to start.
Okay, realization of individuality.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. It says, no great mystic ever lived who denied the reality of individuality. The higher the sense of truth, the greater will be the realization of the uniqueness of individual character and personality. The real self is God-given and cannot be denied. It is the place where God comes to a point of individualized and personified expression and should be thought of in this light. I am the light of the world. Normalcy. All mystics have been normal people. That is, they have lived just as other people have lived. The only difference has been that they have sensed a greater reality, namely the presence of the living spirit. The true mystic in every age has come into the world of affairs and lived among men, sometimes as a teacher and sometimes in the ordinary walks of life, but always in a perfectly natural way. There is nothing peculiar or strange about a mystic. People who shroud themselves in a cloak of mystery are not true mystics, but are laboring under mental delusions and subjective hallucinations. They may be sincere in their beliefs, but they are nonetheless wrong in their methods. It is a question if a real mystic would even realize that he is a mystic. He would be more liable to think of himself simply as one who understands that he is one with the whole. Any comments or questions there?
Well, for me, I think that that's what I would think, is that, that you wouldn't, that how would a mystic know that they're a mystic?
Right.
And I think a lot of people, a lot of times, people who are just walking a more spiritual path, they just naturally stay, not so much stay away from people, but kind of not always mingle a lot with that energy.
Right.
And
They don't,
probably because they can or do more um, supernatural things, let's just put it like that. It seems as if they are more special. But I think that a lot of times we normal people are attributing something to them that they might not always attribute it to themselves. And I,
right. And
yeah,
they
that's
don't
why
get
I think
caught up in the,
a lot of women got burned as witches, because they could actually, do some things with those herbs, and they were closer to understanding spirituality as a whole. So, and they stayed mostly to themselves. So
Mhm.
that's
They
what I
didn't get caught up in the drama that some people have in their lives, and um, they never forgot their connection with Source, with the
I'm in my
divine.
class, Erica.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll continue. The next section is entitled The Great Light. It is impossible, perhaps, to put into words or into print what a mystic sometimes sees, and it is as hard to believe it as it is to put it into words. But there is a certain inner sense which, at times, sees reality in a flash, which illuminates the whole being with a great flood of light. This, too, might seem an illusion unless the testimony were complete, for every mystic has had this experience, but some have had it to a greater degree than others. Jesus was the greatest of all the mystics, and once, at least, after a period of illumination, his face was so bright that his followers would not look upon it. In moments of deepest realization, the great mystics have sensed that one life flows through all, and that all are some part of that life. They have also seen substance, a fine, white, brilliant stuff, forever falling into everything, a substance indestructible and eternal. At times, the realization has been so complete that they have been actually blinded by the light. There are instances where for several days after such an experience, the one having it could not see on the physical plane, for it had been seen, for he had seen the inner light. Remember, all this takes place when in a perfectly normal state of mind and has nothing whatsoever to do with the psychic state. It is not an illusion, but a reality, and it is during these periods that real revelation comes. Perhaps a good illustration would be to suppose a large group of people in a room together, but unaware of each other's presence. Each is busy with his own personal affairs. We will suppose the place to be dark and that someone comes in and takes a flashlight picture of the room and its occupants. Should this picture be shown to anyone who was in the room before it was taken, it might be hard for him to believe that all the objects in the picture were actually in the room. This is, of course, a poor analogy, but it does serve to elucidate a point. In flashes of illumination, the inspired have been seen into the very center of reality and have brought back with them a picture of what they have seen and felt. Again, we know that this has not been an illusion or simply a subjective hallucination, for each age has had its mystics, and every age has produced the same results. All have seen the same thing. The testimony is complete and the evidence is certain. Any comments or questions about that or sharings?
I'm just curious that last statement, Each age has produced, not the last statement, but next to the last one. Um, every age has produced, no, oh no, where am I? Anyway, we know that it has not been illusion as simply as a subjective, for each age has its mystic. And my curiosity is, who's the mystic of our time?
We are.
That's
Okay.
what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. We are. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that we don't advertise that we are. We just are, and we just be, and we just do whatever is expected of us, whether it's with our family, with our coworkers, with our neighbors. We just do the best that we can with what we know. And yet at the same time, deep down inside of us, we have seen the brilliance of the divine. And it hasn't been as a person, a place, or a thing. It has been that pure energy. And we know it flows through us. All we have to do is call upon it, and it helps us. Whether we're a child or a student writing an essay and don't have an idea of what we're going to write, or whether you know we have a child, a grandchild, great grandchild that needs help in doing something. For some reason, we're able to help. We sometimes don't even know exactly how we knew how to do it, but it works. And just like Penelope had brought up about the witches with the herbs, witches actually means wise woman, and any herb can help heal. It's just that we have to put that energy and that thought into it, and it works. So that's why I say we are the mystics of this age, but we don't advertise it. We just allow ourselves to be whatever is needed at that time by the individuals we come in contact with.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say hello to whoever the person is that just came in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It just says iPhone, so I'm just saying hello, hello, hello. I have my camera off because don't look at me today. Excuse me. But one of the things that I was thinking also about being a mystic, it is a concentrated effort to stay focused on that higher level of spiritual consciousness. I think that, when you purposefully wake up, and that's the first thing you do is try to maintain your centeredness and to be whole all throughout that day with your every thought. And then you allow yourself to be wherever it is that you need to be, or to do whatever it is that you need to do without that kind of focus that says, okay, well, I'm going to walk on water today at 5 p.m. come and find, bring the cameras, so I think that's what a mystic is. And I really do think that we have always had more mystics than we could ever know, but because we are looking for a special type, and that's usually what humans do. They look for a special type and say, okay, well, this is what it is, and so now that's the status quo, and everything else is supposed to look like that. So we don't really have any individuality in who we are, but I think that the more we allow our individualized temples to be energized in the light, as the light, that to me is where we are mystics.
Right. And very well said, Penelope. And also, it brought to mind as you were speaking that in Jesus's time, they were looking for a Messiah, and the people, put on certain ideas of what this Messiah was to look like, and they completely missed. Some people completely missed the message that Jesus was trying to share and tell people about the love and the light and the beauty in the world. Anyone else? Okay, we ready to move on?
Okay.
This next section is entitled What the Mystics Have Taught About the Individual. All of the great mystics have taught practically the same thing. They have all agreed that the soul is on the pathway of experience, that is, of self-discovery, that it is on its way back to its Father's house, and that every soul will ultimately reach its heavenly home. They have taught the divinity to man. And I quote, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, unquote. They have told us that man's destiny is divine and sure, and that creation is complete and perfect now. The great mystics have all agreed that man is his, I'm sorry, let me read that again. The great mystics have all agreed that man's life is his to do with as he chooses, but that when he turns to the one, he will always receive inspiration from on high. They have told us of the marvelous relationship which exists between God and man, of a close union that cannot be broken. And the greatest of mystics have consciously walked with God and talked with him, just as we talk to each other. It is difficult to realize how this could be. It is hard to understand how a being so universal as God must be can talk with man. Here, alone, the mystic sense reveals the greater truth and knows that infinite as is the divine being, it is still personal to all who believe in its presence. It is entirely possible for a man to talk with the spirit, for the spirit is within men, and he who has made the ears can hear. Any comments there?
Well, I think this section is is really important because we have known so many people who say that they talk to God, and they were immediately cast off as insane or some other fear factor was brought in. But yet some people who claim that they talk to God are shysters and charlatans and con men and thieves, or molesters, or somebody who has something negative in mind. So it really, I think that a lot of times that because we are expecting a type, like we were talking about earlier, I'm sure when Yeshua was in his age and time, people in his hometown, it says, in one of those scriptures that, Jesus was amazed how he could not perform any miracles in his own hometown. It's because they recognized him as, the little kid that ran down the street with a snotty nose. But by the time he got to another town as an adult, and he's, turning water into wine, healing the sick and raising the dead, now he has a type. Now that's his, what did they call it? That's his brand now. And so he was branded as that, and that's the thing that people looked at, and that's the model that became, as opposed to listening to his message. It was his personage that they trusted more so than what their message is. And I think that if we, and I do know that there's a psychological condition to people who have, delusions of grandeur and some other words that I really don't know. some other terms, psychological terms that I really just don't know. So I do know that it is also you know, a psychological issue. But if we trusted that that people could really talk to God, first of all, you know, that, you know, and if we have a whole different concept of what God is, and we would allow, if we would allow our modality, say if it is psychology, to merge with an understanding that, you know, say God as energy, and not having a form, and being able to transmit information to each and every one of us, we might be able to, first of all, help that if that individual does have a say, you know, like some type of molecular problem, then that person could be helped to ease whatever discomfort might be in that person's mind. But also we would be able to hear the message that God said to them, because we don't know what we have missed, because we weren't allowing their messages to be realized or to be accepted. So I think that, you know, I think I have always thought that we have done a disservice to people that when we judge them based upon what they look like,
Right.
based upon what we think that they should, how they should behave, you know, and that so I think that we have, you know, made people billionaires because they will say, send me your 10%, and they won't, they send you a prayer cloth back, or a vial of water, but they won't help you, but they won't help you pay your mortgage, you know. And I think that that's what the original church was supposed to be, is that, you know, where everybody that is within that community, and I'm talking a long time, so forgive me, everybody within that community is supposed to share with what is there, and not, you know, make somebody so comfortable that they're the only person who can hear from God. And
Yeah.
they shouldn't have. I went to a church one time where we were told in the congregation that day to, let's make sure we pay off the minister's mortgage and all of his bills, so that all he has to do is sit and think and hear from God today. Oh,
Yeah. Well, you know, go on, Harriet.
No, I was just going to piggyback off of what Penelope just said, because, and this is my opinion and my views, I feel like if God wants me to know something, he is going to come to me directly. And anybody that approaches you and says, well, God told me to tell you this, that is how we can discern the real mystic. Because if God had told that person something, or put on that person's heart something to convey to you, they don't have to precede it with, God said that I should tell you this. They will just tell you what it is they have to tell you. And like I said, that's just my view, my opinion. And that to me is the true mystic.
Good. It's also the matter of getting beyond appearances. And as Penelope has said about, you know, we have, you know, humans have in their mind how certain things should look, and how certain things should happen, and so on. And when we get beyond appearances, we may see that, for example, some of the children that come in that have cerebral palsy, or are quadriplegic, or are autistic, or are of very low IQ, sometimes they have a much closer understanding of what God is and what God wants in life. And we tend to want to put them into some sort of a cubbyhole, you know, um, because we don't think, oh, well, God can't possibly talk to this person with cerebral palsy, or this person who's autistic who doesn't even want to conform to eating the way we eat, or this child who doesn't have enough smarts to learn how to read or to do certain things. And we tend to look at people who have certain deformities or don't look a certain way. We tend to look at that upon them as um, not being as valuable in that respect.
Right, yeah.
Whereas
Mhm.
it's important for us to realize that we have to get beyond what appears to be, whether it's something we see, something we hear, or something we read. I had a fifth grade teacher who said, when you read something, pause for a moment and look between the lines. And I remember raising my hand and saying, but between each line are spaces. And she goes, that's right. And that's what you need to look into.
Mhm.
And, I thought at the time, it kind of went over my head. But as the years have gone by, I understood a little bit more what she meant. And that's why I'm saying it's important for us to get beyond what appears to be. And when we do that, we come to the core, the essence that's within us and within each
Mhm.
other. And I think that's what's happening with this Inner Haven group.
So let me ask a
We said it
question.
many
Oh, I'm
times.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going. So my question is, and you had made a point as we have to go beyond. But I think how do we go beyond when we basically um trust, say, religion? Um, I let me yeah. I want to form it so that I'm not misunderstood or that I don't sound prejudiced or anything in any way, because I really don't. But how do we go beyond if we have chosen to only trust a certain perspective or a certain perception? Say we only trust the way that religion encounters spirituality, and everybody else is kind of goofball and out, off on left plane. Or so how do we go beyond?
Um, I feel it's through our experiences. And I'll give a couple examples, and I've given this one before. Um, when I was old enough to understand about tithing, I'll never forget the priest mentioned about making sure everyone tithe. There's an extra envelope and that type of thing, because you need to tithe to God. And all of a sudden in my little head, this idea popped in. I didn't know it was God or spirit at the time, but it popped in that God doesn't need my money to pay it, anything. Why doesn't the priest just be honest and say, can everybody chip in a little bit more because we have to pay the electric bill, or the gas bill was extremely high this month. We have some extra bills. Can everybody just, why not be honest? And that's one experience that I had that made me decide I want to leave the Catholic Church. Okay. Um, Other experiences, like in the workplace, when I began to feel, discontented with what I was doing. I enjoyed maybe the work I was doing, but I became discontented. Well, to me, that was the spirit nudging me that I needed to move on, that I was needed somewhere else. And many times at a couple of different places that I worked at, when I left, they said, we're going to miss your light. They didn't say they were going to miss me. They said they were going to miss my light.
Mm.
And I didn't know at the time what they were talking about. But as I've, delved a little bit more in understanding me and understanding where I'm coming from, we each give off this light. Those of us that are connected, we can look at each other in our faces. You see this light that sometimes we don't see it ourselves, but the person that we're talking to sees it. And that. So I believe it's through our experiences. And the last thing I'm going to share in regards to this is the Sufis. When I first joined, I asked, what religion the Sufis were. And the guide said to me, he said, well, he says, we're the esoteric side of the Islamic Muslim religion. He says, but he says Sufis believe in the religion of the heart. So I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, whatever you carry in your heart. If it feels right in your heart, then that's what you go to. He said, and the Sufis believe makes no difference whether you belong to any organized religion. It's what you carry in your heart.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm. So it's not necessarily that, you know, yes, we do have to do our individual part. And when I say, you know, meaning, our own spiritual growth, say as mystics, but also we come together as a collective to, because we're not, like for me, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I want you to, see it from your perspective of wherever you are, but, just, include me in it,
And
but
you've
so,
opened the door. You've opened the door for many because you are open
mhm,
in seeing that, we're all coming from different backgrounds and different voices and different opinions, but it's all one.
right, yeah.
And you've opened that door so that we can be truly who we are. And you've provided this safe space.
So it is an opportunity for the collective to grow, and there's no need for us to try to damper or infiltrate, I guess is the better word. Because sometimes, infiltrate other religions or other type of other philosophies, to see, see things bigger.
Right. Right. And, I've had a couple of people say to me, well, what religion do you belong to? Or what church do you go to? And I've told them that I don't belong to any religion. I'm spiritual. I live spiritually, but I carry my church in my heart. Wherever I go, I could be sitting at the beach, enjoying myself with family, having a grand old time, and yet feel the presence of God. Or I could be in the most beautiful tabernacle, temple, or church and feel that presence. But it's wherever I am. And I think each one of us, I don't know just for each one of you, but that's the feeling I get from each of you, that you carry it with you also. But even whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You in Walmart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's very true, because I do like to allow it, to allow myself to shine, especially if I'm in a different crowd of people, and I just want everybody to be at their happiest, to feel joy wherever they are. So I do try to open up that light, or let the light of joy shine in, if I, wherever I am. And I think that maybe that's part of our mission. For me, that's part of my mission here, is just that's how I can spread joy everywhere,
And once you come in contact with that divine within you, you can't turn it off. And if you look truly, when we talk with Forrest or Andre or Carl or Joanne or any of Harriet, any of the individuals who have come on, you see that light within them. They may not see it, but you see it.
Yeah.
It comes through their eyes, through their voice. Sometimes not necessarily what they're saying, but it's that tone, and it's we, as you said, try to shine, try to send that light, but we don't realize that it's there. We can't turn it off. Once we open that door, it's the good side of Pandora's box, so to speak.
Yeah.
And listening to everything that everybody has been saying, I just constantly am brought back to a cartoon, I guess, that was in circulation in one of the offices where I worked in past life. And it was a cartoon. I don't even remember now what the picture was, but the caption I do remember. And it says, God don't make no junk.
Right.
And what that tells me is that everybody on this planet, even if they don't fit into the quote norm, they are still loved. They are still God's children, and we need to love them and respect them for who and what they are, no matter whether we agree or disagree with them, but love them with an understanding that, okay, I don't necessarily go along with what you're saying, but I still love and respect you.
Yeah.
And realize that everybody is doing the best they know how with what they know.
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes. And we can do that within our religion, you know, within our philosophies. I mean, none of those things are hindrances. All of them are amplifiers, you know, because
Right.
there is only one truth, and everybody's headed toward that one truth. But for me, I would like to be a little bit more, I guess, compassionate to people who have like schizophrenia, because I think that a lot of people with schizophrenia, often, speak, have, conversations with God or some other type of divine.
They know.
Yeah, but instead of us avoiding them or punishing them by, saying that we got to put them away, or, I think that we should just be a little bit more open to hearing what they have to say and how to put our spiritual philosophy along with our, I guess our, physical discipline, whether it's, doctor or psychologist or psychiatrist, and put them both together so that that individual has a more opportunity for growth.
Right.
Wow, that was a really interesting paragraph there. That was a lot of food for thought there.
Interesting sharing. I thank each of you for sharing. It was wonderful. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
The next section is entitled Instinct and Intuition. That quality in an animal which directs its action and tells it where to go to find food and shelter, we call instinct. It is really omniscience in the animal. The same quality, more highly developed, makes its appearance in man and is what we call intuition. Intuition is God in man, revealing to him the realities of being. And just as instinct guides the animal, so would intuition guide man, if he would allow it to operate through him. Here again, we must be careful not to make a psychic impression for an intuitive one. Psychic impressions seek to control man. Intuition always remains in the background and waits for his recognition. And I quote, "Behold, I stand at the door," unquote. All arbitrary control of man stopped as soon as he was brought to a point of self-knowingness. From this point, he must discover himself. But intuition, which is nothing less than God in man, silently awaits his recognition and cooperation. The spirit is always there if we could but sense its presence. Mystics have felt this wonderful power working from within and have responded to it. And as a sure evidence that they were not laboring under delusions, they have all sensed the same thing. Had the impressions been psychic only, each would have seen and sensed a different thing. For each would have seen through the darkness of his own subjective mentality. Any comments there?
I find it interesting, that first sentence, the quality in an animal which directs its action and tells where to go to find food and shelter. we call instinct. And then he goes on to say, is really omniscience in the
Mhm.
animal. The same quality, more highly developed, makes it its appearance in man, and is what we call intuition. Omniscience, and I looked it up, means the state of knowing everything. And we do know everything. We just have a problem. I always like to equate the mind or see the mind as a computer. Over the years, we gather information, we store that information, and we bring into this life information and knowledge from past lives, from past existences. And we have all of that knowledge and information from the very beginning within our DNA. But like on a computer that has been in use for a long time, it stores information. And sometimes we have to dig deep in order to find that information. And that's what our mind is, like that computer. We have to sometimes dig deep for that information. And if we need it, it will be there. If it's not necessary for our existence, for our growth, or whatever the need might be, it's not gonna disturb us.
Mhm.
So to speak.
Mhm.
Okay,
I
anyone
think
else?
Oh yeah, I was also gonna say, I think that I I like that this kind of really helps us understand the difference between instinct and intuition, because sometimes we have to use both of them. We have to instinctually, it might not be good to go down a dark alley, but your intuition might follow you there, or lead you there. But and I think that that might be the thing that we have as humans. The more accustomed to the thing we become, we trust it more. I can trust my intuition if I used it more. If I use my intuition all the time, I would, I could trust it more. But if, every now, but if I only use like knowledge of, the sign says, here, and this, and I only believe what somebody else has told me. I only believe the directions that somebody else gives me. I only trust that. The less I'm gonna trust my own intuition. And I think that, a lot of times we, really commend people who use their intuition. We say that, this person, they're really great at the stock market. They instinctually know what stocks to pick. But I think it's their intuition, because, they focus so much on the stocks. So they can, so they're really in tune, or, they're really in tune with the stocks. And I think that if we became more intuitive, if we paid more to our intuition, as opposed to the knowledge that we are, what we're supposed to know, I think that we would trust our inner self more.
Thank you, both of you. That was good. Let's move on. This next section is entitled Illumination and Cosmic Consciousness. There is such an experience as illumination and cosmic consciousness. It is not a mystery, however, but is the self-knowingness of God through man. The more complete the operation of that power, the more complete has been man's conscious mentality. For the illumined do not become less, but more themselves. The greater the consciousness of God, the more complete must be the realization of the true self, the divine reality. Illumination will come as man more and more realizes his unity with the whole, and as he constantly endeavors to let the truth operate through him. But since the whole is at the point of the inner mentality, it will be here alone that he will tactic. And I quote, "Speak to him, thou, for he bears," unquote. The only God man knows is the God of his own inner life. Indeed, he can know no other. To assume that man can know a God outside himself is to assume that he can know something of which he is not conscious. This does not mean that man is God. It means that the only God man knows is within. The only place that man contacts God is within. The only life man has is from within. God is not external, but is indwelling at the very center of man's life. This is why Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within, and why he prayed, "Our Father, which art in heaven."
Wow.
Any comments there? The Aramaic version says, "Our Father, which are within," rather than
Which version is that?
in the Aramaic version, it says, "Our Father, which is within."
And of course, all I can say is growing up in the church, I was taught that God is somebody out there. And to me, I don't know why, when I began to have a better understanding, that did not feel right with me. And I would say it's perhaps when I was in my early teens, when I began to get that feeling. But in order to be complacent and be a part of the church that I grew up in, I just might as well admit it. I told them what they wanted to hear, not what I was feeling within my heart, because I wanted to be a part of this group. But as I got older and I began to study and understand and learn more, I realized, hey, this is not for me. I have to find another way. And at first, I saw it as me turning my back on God, but I wasn't really turning my back on God. I was turning my back on the lies that I had been taught for so many years. And of course, as time progressed, I began to realize I need to keep in touch with the God that was within me, so that I could, and I realized this when I began to, when things would go awry with me, in other words, something would go wrong. And the first thing I would, God help me. God, what are you trying to teach me? And to me, that is how, that is when I came to realize the problem was that I had no one else that I could turn to that would understand and help me to understand what was going on. Because everybody had their own perspective, depending on what church they belonged to or what religion they were a part of. But the more I looked at these things, the more I realized that they were all same. The different religions, that is, were all giving us the same message. And why can't I, as whatever I listen to, whether I listen to Buddha, whether I listen to the Christ or Jesus or Allah, or any of those other great masters. They all, maybe with different words, are giving us the same message. And why can't we understand, or why can't mankind see this and understand this and stop fighting?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I kind of agree. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Sakina.
I was gonna say, I agree with you, and that was my analogy of the wheel. When I talked to the Monsignor when I was being confirmed, how God was at the very center, whatever name you wanted to give it, but each spoke represented a different philosophy or a different religion. Um, and to answer your question about why, with the wars and all that, it has to do with greed. It has to do with not necessarily just greed of money, but a greed of having an ego that wants to be in charge.
Mhm.
And the bottom line, I believe and feel, is each of us is a cell, is the energy of God. Um, and each of us has to come to that understanding ourselves. And when we come to that understanding within ourselves, we begin to do as you said. We talk to God, we say, hey, God, what do I do now? Or, God, I'm in a new town. I don't know which way to turn. Which way do I go? Left, right, straight ahead? And all of a sudden something comes, and that's God. And just like with you, Harriet, and sharing that you finally, at least if I'm misunderstanding you, you finally let go. And instead of saying what you felt these people wanted to hear so that you could be part of the group, you began to speak your truth. And I did it earlier today when we were talking, and you asked the question of where are the mystics today, and I said we are. That was, it came out kind of forceful, at least I felt it did, but that's the truth. We are, and we've been doing it all of our lives. When we stand up and out of courage move on away from what we've been taught or meant to think was the group or the way to behave, or whatever. Um, and I'm going to use your grandson, Penelope, if you don't mind, but because he's autistic, I feel that that's one of the lessons that children who are autistic have come in to show us, is that we don't have to conform to anything except by being true to ourselves. And to me, that's what autistic children are here to do, is to show us that we can be true to ourselves. And that's what I think individuals like Woznia and other individuals I've known who are autistic and don't necessarily want to conform to the way, we've thought society wants them to conform. I don't know if any of you agree with me on that, but whether you do or not, that's how I see, you know, someone who's come in as an autistic person. Someone who's come in with cerebral palsy is showing us that we can just be. We don't have to run here, there, and all that. We can just be. Because someone with cerebral palsy, one client I had, she wanted massages, but it was like massaging a piece of wood, the table, because that's how stiff her body was. But the love that exuded from her was phenomenal. I learned so much and felt so much love coming from her. And all she did was lay there because she couldn't do anything else. She couldn't move. She had to be carried. She had to be fed, but I learned that from her. So that's why I do agree with what, each of you have said. And I'm getting a
And
little teachy, so let's move on.
yeah, no, I was just going to say the examples that you gave of those individuals that don't conform to the norm, are just examples of when Jesus said, I forget now exactly how it goes, but in other words, he was blessing the little children and let them come unto me. And whether they're they're 5 years old or 40 years old. They are the little children that we need to look to as examples of the love that God wants us to feel for each other.
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And if I can add, I think that because we're still not seeing ourselves as separate. We're seeing ourselves separate from each other, and of course, we're going to be separated from God. And God, the word God has now has this title, and and the title is kind of like far removed from people, so that you can't be in connection with it. So to think that you have God within is asinine to people, because they see God as in heaven, sitting on a throne, or there's all of these things, there's all of these labels that are placed on God, God, as opposed to Yahweh. Where if you hear a name, then you have more connection. But just the word God itself can just be a I guess a label,
Yeah.
something that we can't measure up to, and or else it has a connotation to it where it's better than something or somebody else. And I think that it really means a lot if we go through the thought system, the consciousness. And I like that this is illumination and cosmic consciousness, is that we actually go within and become one with that consciousness. And I think every religion does it. I mean, the whole idea of the Christian religion is to renew your mind so that you will have the same mind as Christ. But that that has addendums to it. They've added so many steps to it, so it's no longer simple. And I think that this one right here, where it says God is not external, but is indwelling at every center of at the very center of man's life. This is why Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within. And I think that we can reach there through meditation, through prayer, through whatever acts where we just sit quietly and allow ourselves to merge with that awareness.
Mhm.
Thank you, both of you. That was beautiful. We ready to move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
This next one, the next two sections are rather short, so I'm going to read them together and then we can discuss. The highest practice. The highest mental practice is to listen to this inner voice and to declare for its presence. The greater a man's consciousness of this indwelling I am is, the more power he will have. This will never lead to illusion, but will always lead to reality. All great souls have known this and have constantly striven to let the mind of God come out through their mentalities. And I quote, "The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works." Unquote. This was the declaration of the great master, and it should be ours also. Not a limited sense of life, but a limitless one. The power of Jesus. The occult significance of the power of Jesus is easily understood when we study his method of procedure. Consider his raising of Lazarus from the dead. He stood at the tomb and gave thanks. This was recognition. He next said, and I quote, I knew that thou hearest me always, unquote. This was unification. Then he said, Lazarus, come forth. This was command. The method is perfect, and we will do well to study and follow it. This method can be used in all treatment. First, realize that divine power is. Then unify with it. And then speak the word as one having authority, for the law is the servant of the eternal spirit throughout all the ages. Any comment on either of those 2 points?
Well, I think that, yes, the more we practice going within, the more we practice being in alignment, is how we learn how to trust what we do. And we have to practice that. We have to practice the whole concept that, yes, I am worthy. Yes, I am whole. Yes, I am love. Yes, I am light. And that's how we would be more in alignment with the higher level of consciousness and with the power of Jesus. When we're already in that mind, then yeah, we can do all of these things, and we do it just like he says. Where is it? When he got these steps, one, the first step is to realize that divine power is. I mean, that's the way you start off, then unify with it, and then speak the word as one having authority for the law. And I think that that really does come as practice. You have, that's something that you have to practice every single day. And you can't have fear. You can't have any fear or of your having a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding or a lack of anything. We have to, trust that the divine power already is, and that I am unified with it. So everything I say, do, and respond to is going to blend with that law. And I can, and I have the authority to say that.
Mm-hmm. The Sufi healing prayer that I use when I'm working on individuals goes something like this. Beloved source, send forth thy healing power through my breath, my thoughts, my glance, my words, and my actions. And when I first read this, that came to mind because it does call forth and realizes the power, and then unifying with it by our breath, our glance, and then our words and our actions and our touch. That's the doing part of it, and that's saying to the person for it to come through. And that, so there may be other prayers that you yourself might come across, but those 3 steps are very simple.
Mhm.
And can be done very easily, and it doesn't necessarily require any special words. It's just that acknowledgement of the power,
Mhm.
and realizing that you're one with it, and that you just take action to bring it about.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which, many people, I've noticed with some people, they acknowledge the power, they maybe recognize that they're one with it, but then it becomes knowledge, but they don't do anything with it.
Right. Yes,
You
that's
know,
it right
it,
there. Mhm.
it's like the person that wonders, why does this keep happening to me? Well, duh, it keeps
Mhm.
happening because you're not making the effort or the steps to move beyond it.
Mhm.
People who are dissatisfied with either work, their job, their family, their church, their school, they stay because they think that's where they need to be. And they're afraid to take that step and move on it and to move forward. And yet that dissatisfaction that's the divine saying, it's time to move on. You're now needed somewhere else. You were fine here for a while, but now it's time to move on. I have got another place I need you to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, now leave it. Oh, go on, Harriet.
Oh, I was going to say, what this brought to mind for me is a prayer that I found in A Course in Miracles, and I do it every day. I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal.
Oh, thank you, Harriet. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. I I usually say goosebumps, but a friend of mine calls them God bumps.
Calls them what?
God
God bumps. When something like that happens and feels the presence of God, that's what she calls them. There's one last section here before we go on to this chart. And this section is called Turning Within. We should turn within then, as have all of those great souls who have blessed the world with their presence. We should turn with and find God. It should seem natural to turn to the great power back of everything. It should seem normal to believe in the power, and we should have a sense of a real presence when we do turn toward the one and only power in the entire universe. This method is by far the most effective. It gives a sense of power that nothing else can, and in this way proves that it is a reality. It would be a wonderful experiment if the world would try to solve all of its problems through the power of spirit. Indeed, the time will come when everyone will, from the highest to the lowest. A sense of real completion can come only to that soul which realizes its unity with the great whole. Man will never be satisfied until his whole being responds to this thought, and then indeed will God go forth anew into creation. To as many as believed gave he the power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any comments?
Well, I think that for me, I think everybody, every religion or philosophy talks about turning within. But most of it, when we turn within, we're looking for our shame as opposed to looking for our illumination and looking for our light. So if we are are when we do turn within, um, we don't need to look for our ego self, our personality self. We just need simply to look for the illumination that's in there, and that wholeness, and become that, and to become one with that creation, as opposed to just always looking for our sins and always ready to be on our bended knee. And you know I mean, it's always good to to look within to find, if we need to find self-forgiveness. That's important, you know but also, but that's should not be the only reason that we're looking within. We should, in my opinion, I think we should look within to find that wholeness of spirit, and to allow myself to be whole with that spirit. Even if, because like when I first started that, because I did, I mean, I believed that God was up there in the sky. I believe that God was upstairs, there in the sky, and the Virgin Mary and all of the angels and saints. I believed in all of that whole pantheon, and that was, just wonderful. And then as I became more involved in metaphysics, it took, you know, it really took me a long time to, how do I connect? I just did not know how to connect. But now that I'm understanding that that connection is my allowing the Christ that is within me to express itself out. Now, okay, now I'm finally getting it. But it is a habit that we have to break. It is a thing that we have to have a certain assurity of. And I think that, you know, for me, that was the only thing I could work on for years. For years. I mean, I always knew that, yeah, I still believe that I can walk on water. I always believe that, you know, I can, you know, raise the sick and heal the dead. What, is that what it is? Raise the sick and heal the dead, which is the same thing. But
Raise the dead and heal the sick. They're close.
yeah. But those are the things that, yes, I mean, those are kind of like don't like the perks of it. Those are like the perks that you you get, because, you know, yeah, it's great to be able to do all of the physical things that Jesus did here on earth, because somebody else might not be able to do it at that time. But it's more valuable to me to see that that's who I am, you know, to understand who I am, as opposed to, you know, trying to, you know, demonstrate all of these fantastic powers, as opposed to, you know, just, you know, doing it as a perk. You know, you walk by, you see somebody who's sick, they need to be healed, and I'm, you know, I'm able to heal them because, you know, I'm here at the moment and I can do that, you know. So I think that you know, when we stop trying to be special and we allow it just to be who we are, be an incorporated part of our being.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, it's 3:33. We started a little bit late. We started like 20 minutes late. So I don't know how far you want to just.
Well, that what I finished, what we just read, that was the end of the lesson 5 reading, and then it goes on now to chart 5 and explaining the chart here. I just wanted to add one thing that I got the first time I read this, and I wrote it down. Man equals mind absolute now. And if you take the beginning of each one of those words, you have man, M-A-N. And
Say that again, Sakina.
Yeah, say that again. Wait a minute. Let me
man,
get her.
man equals mind absolute now.
Okay.
And when I had first read that, and that's when that came to me, made me kind of realize that our mind is whatever, you know, is absolute and in this now moment. And that does change because the now moment changes. And it's important for us to connect with that absolute universal power that's within us. So I just wanted to share that because that's what I had at the end of this. And in a way, that's what I got from this chapter, and actually how to use it in my daily life. To realize that in this now moment, I have to be absolute and in my mind. So for what that is.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you, whoever that was.
That was me. Sneeze. Thank you. Yeah, so I don't, if you wanted to do the chart and the the lesson 5 metaphysical, if you just, we probably just might just do the chart
Well,
instead of
I can share with you just the chart, and then next week we can go on to the
to
remainder
the,
of this lesson here.
okay, yeah,
Okay,
because I think that this chart is gonna have, I think we'll talk through, I think we'll
yeah,
talk about extra 20 minutes on that.
yeah. Okay, the chart, it's a round circle, and I'm going to read it from the top down. It says, the triune unity, the indivisible whole, within which is all of its parts, the absolute within which is the relative, the uncreated within which is the creator, the the changeless within which is all change, the formless within which is all form, the limitless within which is all space, the timeless within which is all time, the universal within which is the individual, the one person within whom all, the one person within whom are all people, source and center of all life, power, and action, truth, love, mind, spirit, the ever and the all, God, our Father, which art in heaven, the Son, personality, individuality, man. This is the mystic's chart and shows how the universal becomes the particularization of itself through man. Man comes to a point in the universal, or God, and is the idea of God as man. The Father is represented as the whole, just back of or above or within man. This is the indwelling God to whom we pray and with whom we talk. The mystic has the ability to consciously talk to God and to consciously receive a direct answer from the Spirit. In this chart, it is shown that the absolute contains the relative within itself, but is not limited by the relative. We must remember that the relative does not limit, but expresses the absolute. All change takes place within the changeless. All form subsists within the formless. All conditions obtain within that which is limitless. And creation is eternally going on within that which is uncreated. All are activities of the one mind and spirit of God. All people come to a point of individuality within that which is universal.
Yeah. I just got my book recently. I just got I just got this book. And because, like I said, my book, well, I think it was just the 1938 version. It didn't have these lessons that this one has in it. But just by looking through it, I understand the importance of these charts, because they are also like milestones or stepping stones, that we can use in order to become, because I think that's the right word for me, is to become what I already am, to
Becoming
be that
aware.
part of existence. Yeah, yeah. So I like it that the triune unity is all of these all of these sentences express what the triune unity is. And we can and we are a part of that triune.
I sort of read it backwards. I probably should have read it from the bottom up, but
Mm-hmm.
for what it is,
We get it.
I just
Mhm.
started to read from the top down because that's how, well, that's how I was taught to read.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
We
And,
weren't taught in Hebrew.
but also, but even us having, and that's why I'm glad you brought that up, Sakina, is that, you know, we've always been taught to read from a certain you know, perspective, and we can work this thing from bottom up to top down to starting somewhere in the middle. You know,
Mhm.
we're not limited to a certain standard. And I
Mhm.
think that this is what I often get from metaphysics in general, and is that we don't have to work from a certain standard. We're not we're not conform. We don't have to
Or
conform.
bound by certain
Yes,
laws and regulations.
yes,
Well,
yes, yes.
when I first got a copy of the Quran,
Hmm.
I started to read it, and I told my one friend who was a Muslim, and told him I'm not understanding this. It's really, I don't know. And he said you read it from the back to the front.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Are you sure?" And he said that's how I was taught. And I said, "Okay." And so I did, and it made so much sense when I did that. So you're right about the fact that in metaphysics, we're taught to be open and receptive to all modalities, all philosophies, all religions, all paths, and also to not be conformist, but to actually, look within and follow that guidance that we're given. And as you said, we can read this from the top down, the bottom up, sideways, start in the middle,
From right to
whatever.
left instead of left to right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the words.
yeah. So when we're and then this whole lesson 5 metaphysical chart, number 5, I think that it really helps us to understand being part of the whole.
Hmm.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about something. I can't remember what we were talking about, but anyway, I was saying, my toenail is as much as me as, my face, and in order for us to understand our place in the body of God or body of Christ, we have to, stop seeing ourselves as separate individuals, but seeing ourselves as part of the whole. I can't say that my toenail is less important because I trim it every now and then. Probably trim it more often than I do. But they could from those toenail clippers, they could make a whole nother one of me. You know, because of some side, because of the advancement
Cloning.
of science today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cloning.
yeah.
DNA.
So if I allow myself to be just as important in the whole perspective of the body of Christ, and not think that I'm less than, I'm not worthy, or something else. But I see myself as big, as important, as whole, as one, then I don't mind being wherever I am. I don't mind being a part of, skin, the ankle skin, or I don't have to be the brain. I don't, and I think that when we get to this place that we understand that when we understand our physical being and our physical bodies, we'll understand the wholeness of creation at the same time. And I think that this is what this chart is helping us to understand.
Right.
What about you, Harriet? What are you thinking? What are you seeing with this chart?
It's I don't even know how to express it. It's it's telling me that I think I think um Sakina's uh analogy of man, absolute now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that kind of how do I put this? um it just um what's the word I want to use? It just confirms so much of what I am learning as time progresses, so much of what I have come to see and understand um, about this whole idea of God and the universe and who I am. And it just goes back to that I am.
Thank you, Harriet. Okay, Penelope. Hello?
Penny, you're muted.
Excuse me, I had to go help Derica with something.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Did I miss something? A question?
No, we were just, Harriet had finished and it was just
Oh, okay.
silent. And so then I said hello because all of a sudden I felt like the lady said, "What?"
She's not here. Hey, so what are your thoughts on the chart or all of the charts? And we might have to one day just go over the charts because I'm really seeing how important they are.
What?
Now that
You mean all of the charts?
yeah, every lesson has a chart.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we might have to take some time and just go over the charts one of these days.
The charts, in a way, to me, put a visual on what we've read.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And gives us a visual to look at. And it's funny that you mentioned that because as I was looking at this chart, it reminded me of a tree with the man sort of like at the bottom of it, and then the personality being sort of the ground, and then the trunk, and then the branches and the leaves. And that's what it reminded me of. And in a way, if we look at it, the roots of the tree are actually God creating us to experience life on earth. And then as we grow, the trunk, we begin to apply some of those experiences. And then it branches out that we're then able to use those experiences. And if we use those experiences with the understanding that the guidance to do whatever it is that needs to be done is coming from God, we reach the heavens, that consciousness of heaven. But anyway, that's what this chart was reminding me of, was the tree. That, when we look out to the trees, it'll be kind of for me, it'll be kind of a reminder that my roots are in God. And as I experience life, it begins to branch out, but it goes full circle.
Yeah. And also when you think about the roots, that's where we get all of our nourishment. That's where we get the life within us. And of course that that nourishment that we're getting from the earth, from the soil, it goes through the roots and up through the trunk and into all the branches.
Yeah, and when we understand that, you know, the roots came from the seed that had to die in order for the tree to live. You know, so yeah, there, you know, there is that thing that also, you know, like we were always, like all of us have mentioned, is that something died in us to make us believe in where we are now. You know, and I feel that this has this growth is helping me to be that real be that real, because that's the best word that I can think of. Be that the real me, the authentic me, you know. And I really appreciate all of us. So, you know, I guess what I guess I'll do my round table right now. That's almost it. That's almost what I have to say, is that I really appreciate the fact that I have you know, people who even in our consistency are, you know, this is how we are understanding and revealing and growing. You know, we come consistently on a regular basis here so that we can learn how to live as in our God self. You know, how to you know, release the not only our, you know, our super consciousness in our own hearts and minds, but also to you know, to all everybody that we encounter, that they'll, you know, that this is, you know, that this is the light that they can that illuminates from me. So I guess this is what I want to do, say, especially this week. I really want to pay attention to what it is that I am illuminating, you know, and, you know, if I am thinking you know, a fearful thought, you know, I want to immediately illuminate that and change that fear to something loving, you know. And then that will, you know, calm me down, and will calm all of the rest, everything else that I, you know, all of the vibrations that you know, that come from me at the same time. So I think that I'm really, you know, self-awareness until we get back next time is what I'm going to be working on, you know, self-awareness. Yes. So how about anybody next?
I can go next.
Okay.
I think the most important thing that I got out of today's lesson is that I need to be aware of things, or look at the points within the big picture, as opposed to looking at the whole thing. And most of my life, that has been, I would say, a stumbling block, because rather than looking at whatever it is that I need to deal with one step at a time, I look at the whole thing and I see it as, oh my God, can I handle this? And to me, it becomes frightening. And I need, what this lesson has taught me, that not only am I a mystic, but I need to experience that mysticism in small bites. And whatever little I can do to make somebody's world a little better, just do it and move on to the next step. And to me, that will make life a whole lot easier and a lot less complicated, shall we say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I thank both of you for sharing. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you that comes to me along with this chapter is something I read this morning. And that was that when we don't understand something, no matter what it is, the mind then starts to create fear.
Mhm.
It's like the fear of the unknown. But once we begin to understand, we're able to let go of that fear and turn that fear into either joy, happiness, peace, anything positive and that. And, I think this lesson, especially, we really, really, really opened ourselves up and shared more and more of our true selves with each other. I don't know if it was necessarily, you know, um, Ernest Holmes hitting the nail on the head, so to speak, and sharing, or exactly what, but I feel that the God within each one of us helped us to be really true to who we truly are, and to recognize that we ourselves don't have to do anything except to be open and to allow the mystic, the God within us, to come forward, and to realize that sometimes it doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be a smile. It could
Mhm.
just be a pat on the back. It could just be pulling into a parking space next to another car and, just sending light and love to the habits of that car, even though they may not be sitting there. When they, you know, come to get their car, may feel much better about themselves just because we put some light into that parking space or some love, So it's realizing that everything we do it because of the divine within us, wishing to express its living presence in this world. And it's not out there, it's all within us,
Mhm.
consciousness. So thank you.
Well, that was super. That was a super lesson. And I don't have anything. I don't have my notebook. I mean my
Calendar.
my calendar right here. Oh, yeah, so I think I took it. I think I took it downstairs actually. But anyway, this session today was really good. Anyway,
Yes, it does.
I really enjoy Science of Mind. When I first, started practicing or started, practicing it, like last year, maybe 2019 is when I, because I had always, like I said, I had always heard about it. Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, put something on. I had always heard, but it was just another, thing that I'm on, a bucket list. I'm on something else I'm gonna get to. But like when the book was on sale, I said, well, let me pick it up. And as soon as I picked it up and I started, I said, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And this really shows me how to use and how to operate in it, as opposed to, I guess things in life or my other lessons that I had learned. It always seemed that it was, I had to have so much knowledge, but this really helped awaken me from the inside. So this is one of the reasons that I do love a science of mind, and I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that this is our study. For the rest of the week, we have, let's see, we have because I probably won't get my phone if this doesn't work, if putting it in a bag of rice. If that doesn't work, I might not be able y'all might not be able to communicate with me until Tuesday, because I'll probably have to wait for my daughter to get off from work tomorrow and take me to the phone store. Oh, that's a monster. But anyway,
You might be able to get it tomorrow
yeah, I
if you
might
go
be.
directly to, yeah.
Yeah, but Yeah, it might happen, but it probably will not because you got kids going home from school and you know, but we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, we will be here on Wednesday from 5 to 6:30 for A Course in Miracles. Thursday from 7 to 8:30, we are going to do our class. We got to, well, first of all, Thursday from 11 to 12, we have Forest with I Am. That's Thursday morning, 11 a.m. to 12. And then on Thursday evenings, we have the new book, and I can't remember the
Book of Longings.
The Book of Longings that we're studying Thursday evening from 7 to 8:30. And I'm gonna, that's gonna have a title of itself. So, all the gnosis one, we're not gonna turn to that page anymore. We're gonna turn to the Book of Longings. I'll send out that invitation as well. And then the next Saturday, the 22nd, is when we have we have Joy Tremolo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's going to come in and she's going to be talking about astral travel. So I hope you can make it, Sakina. I know Saturdays are usually busy days for you.
What day is that?
Saturday, April the 22nd.
Okay, I will try.
Yeah. She's one of the young ladies that we met at the conference.
Okay,
and so
I will try.
Yeah, so she's going to come in and talk about astral travel, and that's going to be from 2 to 4, Saturday, April the 22nd. And so I'm looking forward to this. So we do have some interesting people and guest speakers that are coming in, and that's one of the things I love about Inner Haven is that we're looking at so many different modalities and how to increase these modalities into our own perspectives and into our own lives. So that's the only thing I can remember off the top of my head and until I get my calendar. But if you all need me, oh gosh, I guess you'll just have to send me a
telepathic message.
Yeah,
a Facebook message. Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't send me a Facebook message. Yeah, don't, I don't even have Facebook on my computer, really. Send me an email.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, send me an email. Okay. And that's probably be just, like I said, until maybe Monday or Tuesday. But by Tuesday for sure I'll have a new phone if this one isn't going to work,
Well, but, you mentioned about having some problems. My computer won't work. Hasn't worked for 2 days. It says my password is wrong. So they sent me a thing and then it won't let me put that in. And that. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Nothing lasts forever. Yeah.
Today was no good.
Right.
Yes.
And I wish you all to have a great and blessed week.
Oh, absolutely.
And the same to you. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube page. And Sakina, I must say, I got the book.
Oh, good.
And I understand where you're coming from when you said you couldn't put it down.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It is really interesting.
She is a phenomenal author. I mean, because this is like the second book I've read of hers, and the Mermaid's Chair I couldn't put down either. There's something about the way she writes, and she intersperses truth in it also, considering she writes novels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, taking facts and turning them into nonfiction or turning them into fictional stories, I think a lot of times that is how so many lessons are learned, as opposed to giving somebody the raw truth.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, that's just like, when you have a child, you tell them something and it goes in one ear and out the other. And a neighbor or an aunt, anybody else, teacher, can give them the same thing, tell them the same exact thing that you told them, and they'll listen to it.
Mhm, mhm.
Like the TV dad.
It's not,
Yeah, right,
it's,
okay,
it's not the story, it's the messenger.
Well, anyway, you ladies have been wonderful messengers today.
Well,
So
let's
that's-
let's pray out. Let's say our prayer out. Harriet, would you like to close us out in prayer?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Let us sit back, relax, taking a deep, full, cleansing breath. And as we take in that deep, full, cleansing breath, let us be grateful for the time that we've spent together today, for the understanding and the knowledge that we have gained in our lessons on the science of mind. And be grateful for Reverend Sakina for her introducing this lesson to us and guiding us through this lesson today. And let us take what we have gained and learned and spread our truth so that others will be helped and are able to deal with whatever problems and concerns they might have as they go on their individual journeys. For this, we are grateful. And so it is.
And so it is.
That was beautiful,
That
Harriet.
was
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, then, ladies. I see you all on Wednesday.
Okay.
I love you. Bye.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.